Hello everyone, this is Justine, and I am going to show you what I've made with the Picket Fences card kit of the month. Now yes, I know that this was from April, and it is now June, but that's okay. Unforeseen circumstances came up, and I was not able to make this video in April when it was available as the card kit, but it is still available on the Spellbinders website. And either way, I did just want to dive into the kit because I have a special spot in my heart for these kits, and I wanted to use it since I had it. I knew that I could make some really nice cards as well, so I am going to show you just 10 of what I've made. Now, I love their pattern paper, so I chose to use 3 different pattern papers here so far, and I actually used a 4th one to cut out that green circle that you see on the left. I just cut that out with the circle die that I had from my stash. You get so much in these kits, and I just had to try to use up everything that I could. So some of the things that come in the kit are 10 cards and envelopes, 9 pieces of cardstock, a die set, a 6x6 paper pad that has a total of 40 sheets of pattern paper, and those are all single-sided, so you don't have to pick and choose what side to use, which I love that part about their card kits. The clear stamp set, puffy stickers, chipboard embellishments, sequins, die-cut shapes, and there's a ton of those, foam squares, adhesive tape, and the inspiration sheet. So there's quite a lot in there, and these cards are kind of geared towards a springy summer outdoor feel. So that's kind of the general tone to the kit. Now, I just could not help myself, and I had to put these little puffy circles all over this card, kind of scattered. It's not showing up too well on the video, but in person you can see. Then I went in with my Wink of Stella. This is a glitter pen, and this is the darker one. It's the silver. So it doesn't have that clear look to it, but that was intentional since I wanted these 2 blue flowers to have a little bit of bling. I also went around on the blue flowers on the pattern paper that is in the top, on the top here, and just gently put that Wink of Stella over those as well. And that finishes off my first card. Now for my second card, it's a pretty simple one. I chose to use this gold foiled tree pattern paper and have that be in the background. You don't see much of it since there will be other pattern paper on top of it, but that is okay with me. I just wanted the little edge to be visible. Then I'm using the second piece of pattern paper here, which has a little bit of handwriting on it that says kind of some sweet nothings, honestly. Then I chose to use a scrap of this swan pattern paper, and I just took my scissors and cut a wavy edge to have this kind of be the water for my swan to sit on. Then using the foam squares and cutting up the rest of the foam squares area, I am going to pop up my swans and baby swans. Then using the puffy sentiments, I will just stick that right onto the card. It says always forever. Now for my third card, I chose to use another pattern paper to be the main background. I also chose some ephemera pieces, or the die cut shapes, to coordinate with my pattern paper. Those are the little flowers. I'm going to use my Misty and the stamp set that came in the kit to add a sentiment to my card. I love that they come with stamp sets because you can reuse a stamp over and over, and it is not a single-use item. I'm stamping directly onto my pattern paper using the VersaFine black ink. I use this for some stamps that have a really dainty script to them, and I use my MISTI just in case I need to stamp twice. This time, once is enough. One thing that the Spellbinders card kits have that some other card kits don't is that they all coordinate together. So that being said, you could take almost anything in the kit and put it together and it would look okay because everything coordinates. So I'd like to see someone make an ugly card using the card kits because I don't really think it can be done. If you're at least trying, maybe if you're trying to make it really ugly, you maybe could, but it still would match because the colors are close. Especially if you add sequins like this, it really just adds a finishing touch. Now, I mentioned before that the card kits have a special place in my heart, and that's because they were the first place that with card making I could be creative and make my own designs and just kind of fall in love with card making on my own and not follow someone else's design by looking at their creation, but looking at materials and trying to make something from my own head. And I've always loved art, and I just found that this was a really fun way to have a creative outlet and bring joy to other people's lives because cards are meant to be given to people, and I love working on a card and giving them to someone. So there are a few benefits of getting the card kits, and I just wanted to touch on a few of those. Now, the Spellbinders card kits, if you are a monthly club member, they are $38.50 if you get them during the month. Now, they do sometimes not sell out, and they will put them on their website after the month is over and sell them at full price. So, for example, this card kit that I'm working with right now is on their website for $55. So, by being a subscriber, you would save $17.50. So, definitely worth your money to be a subscriber because $17.50 you can do a lot with. You could buy a whole nother stamp set, a die set, a glimmer set. You could buy paper, ink, tons of things. So save your money and be a monthly member. Also, in the card kits, you get a lot of reusable materials like the stamp set, the die set, the sequins, the foam tape, the double-sided adhesive are not products that you run out of after just making 10 cards with the kit. You most likely will have some left over of the adhesives, and the stamp and die sets you can use over and over and over again as long as you take care of them. So that's wonderful, and it helps you build your stash. So if you are new to card making or you want to use these products in junk journaling or journaling in general or making bookmarks, card settings for table settings, you can use them over and over for so many different things. And I love that the cards help to let you be creative without saying like you have to make this. So with like say a die set, you can change the colors on paper, but really the die set is in a way set in stone, like the design of it, if that makes sense. But a card kit, you can do whatever you want on a card. You could make it a shaker. You could make it totally flat. You could add tons of dimension with foam squares. You could add different ephemera. You could take the die and stamp and put it on one card. There's so many different things you can do with it, and it's so fun just to see what you can do. So if you haven't tried a card kit, I definitely recommend trying it. And the worst that can happen is you end up with something that you don't know what to do with. And if you get to that point, try looking at other people's videos online or look at Pinterest and see some ideas. And eventually the spark will happen and you'll try something new and you'll be making cards. It's so fun. Okay, I will climb down off of my soapbox and talk about what I am making. So this card was very heavy on the florals. I love that the card kits come with a lot of florals typically. So I clustered them all together in the middle and added some cheerful little birds and stamped out my sentiment, again using the VersaFine ink and my Misty. Then I used my little mini trimmer and trimmed it down to fit on the flowers. I think if I had to remake this card, I would mount my sentiment piece of paper on another piece of colored cardstock just to give it a little bit more of diversity with the background. And here I'm using just some foam tape that I had in my stash because it is a larger rectangle piece, and I found that with the foam squares and like larger areas like this, it can dip down, so I just wanted it to be nice and flat. I ended up with a little extra bird, so I am putting that inside my card as a cheerful surprise for the recipient. Then I will take a little bit of glue and my sequins and put them on. This month the sequins are clear, but it still is visible when you are holding the card. And since I used Barely Art glue, it does dry clear, so yes, you can see a little bit of the glue right now since it's wet, but hey, it'll dry and it'll be clear, just like the sequins. But even though they're clear, they do have a little bit of a shine to them, so you still get the glimmery effect without it being glitter. Now for this card, I did mount 2 different pieces of pattern paper on my card, and I'm going to put my sentiment directly onto the pattern paper. Yes, looking back, I probably should have stamped my sentiment before gluing it all to my card, but sometimes I am a little scatterbrained. We're all surprised. And I forget. So thankfully the Misty saves my paper time and time again. So it ended up working out this time. But if it didn't, I would probably just grab another piece of pattern paper from the kit and cut a smaller rectangle and put it right on top of what I have there. And no one would know. Because with stamping and card making, you just kind of have to either start the project over or roll with it. And like I said before, all of the elements to the card kit coordinate, so it wouldn't matter if I added another piece of pattern paper. It would still look okay. So with this card, I chose to use pattern paper again. I like to use a busier one in the background and have kind of a more muted tone to the foreground. So that's literally supposed to be ground in this picture. And yes, I know that pink grass is not a thing unless it's a Dr. Seuss book, but on my card, that's grass. And taking these 2 adorable trees and these little birdhouses from the die cut pack and putting them directly onto my tree. Then I had 2 little birds, and I wasn't sure should they be just flying in the air or coming together for a little bit of a kiss, but I ended up having them just fly in the air. Since the birds are in a house, I went with more of a cutesy sentiment from the stamp set. With my Misty, I always want to make sure that it's lined up. So I chose to use my bigger Misty because my card is already a little bit bulky with the thick paper that I use, so I used my larger Misty. That way it would get an even stamp. Again, Should I have stamped on this before gluing it down? Probably. But like I said, little scatterbrain sometimes. Now the sentiment on this is very sweet. It says, "Hope your day is filled with all the things that matter most." So I think that this will end up being maybe a cheerful hello card, or even maybe a shower card for a baby shower, just something simple. It could even be a neighbor card. I know that a lot of cards in this kit kind of lean towards housewarming, neighbory, etc., because a lot of the sentiments have kind of a homey tone to them. So to move on to this card, I used the same pattern paper from the last card, which is the pink stripe and the pink floral-y paper. Like I said before, I like to put the busy paper in the background and have more of a calmer paper on the front. Then taking a white scrap from my scrap area, I'm creating again the ground. I had to use up these little trees because they were so cute, and I almost wish that those were a stamp or something so I could make more little trees in the future, but that is life. I am taking one little bluebird there and one little house. Sorry, that was my ice machine. And my other little house. Then finishing off my card with one of the puffy sentiments. I love when the kits come with those puffy sentiments because they're so easy to add onto a card. You don't have to add any extra glue, and it says it all. So now this time I'm using a scrap of those kind of shiny trees to create the ground for my little people to be walking in this park themed card. Now I do have the chipboard piece there that has the trees, and the chipboard piece that says "So lovely" or something. Hello lovely. Sorry, it's gold, so it's a little hard to read on the screen. Anyway, and then the rest of the pieces are die cut pieces. So we have a little family here with a little buggy and a lady with a dog, and then another lady with a dog. And I used another one of those puffy sentiments that says "Simple Joys." It's a very busy card, but sometimes I like when you kind of create a scene pretty simply with the pieces, and it turns out kind of fun. With the chipboard pieces, I do usually add a little extra glue behind them just so they are for sure sticking on the card. Now for this card, I'm using that same blue paper from the swan card and some of that pink cardstock. Now in my hand I have a scrap paper from that gold trees, and I'm leaving a little bit of the blue edge just because my paper ended up being short, and instead of it being on one side or the other, I cut it down so it would perfectly fit on that blue paper and it would look intentional. Then I have my chipboard of a little bike, and then the paper ephemera piece of the big blue bike, and just simply added a little puffy sentiment. And I think that would be a very nice, sweet card to give anyone as a thank you. So here's a look at all of the cards that I've made in this kit. Again, they do have it on their website right now, and I will have a link for that in the description. I will also have a link for the current month, which is June, and that will be closed soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!